recording. And looks like we're going live now. Okay. So welcome everybody. First of all, before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge that Brampton Library is located on the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and before them, the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Huron, and Wendat. We also acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and other global Indigenous people that now call Brampton their home. We are honored to live, work, and enjoy this land. So my name is Megan. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm a diversity and adult services librarian with Brampton Library. We are very excited to be partnering with Job Skills yet again this year. We've partnered with Job Skills a number of times over the last 6 months or a year. We have done lots of programs, and today we're excited because we're launching a virtual hiring event together called Launch Your Future, which will connect you with, I believe it's over 15 employers, right, Deanna? So this is kind of like a virtual job fair or a virtual hiring event, but instead of being over the course of one day and in person like it traditionally is, this event will go until next Friday, May 14th, and it'll be all online. So before we get into today's program, I'd just like to let you know about a few more programs that we have happening soon and some programs that we have recorded for job seekers. So this Thursday and then again on May 19th, we're going to be running Chat with an Entrepreneur, which is in partnership with the Brampton Entrepreneur Center. And this program will allow participants to speak with real local Brampton entrepreneurs to ask all the questions you have if that's a road that you're interested in going down. And we've also run lots of webinars with Job Skills over the last, as I say, 6 months or so. And the recordings are on Brampton Library's YouTube channel. So I'll post a link for those upcoming programs that I just mentioned and the recordings in the chat here on Zoom and also on Facebook Live in a few moments. Again, if you have questions, please put them in the chat here in Zoom or leave a comment on the Facebook live stream, and we will get to them towards the end of today's program. So now for today's session, I'm joined today by Deanna Joyce, who is a facilitation manager from Job Skills, and she's going to lead you through how to be successful at this virtual hiring event that has just started today. So Deanna is a Toronto area native, tropical plant lover, and cat enthusiast. She loves to write and design curriculum for learners of all ages. She has extensive experience training diverse groups of people and continues to seek out exciting opportunities with her most recent adventure, managing online service delivery at Job Skills. Deanna is grateful for the opportunity to participate in the learning journeys of her students and colleagues. She is happy to be here today to share how her organization can help you open the door to your next opportunity. So without further ado, I'm happy to pass the virtual floor over to Deanna.
Thank you very much, Megan, for your lovely welcome message. And again, just want to reiterate that I'm very happy to be here to share some, I hope, helpful information with you to help support you in your job search activities, as well as get you ready for the virtual hiring event. And so today we're going to be reviewing a lot of information in the next hour, so hang tight. And this is just the agenda of what we're going to be looking at today. So we've had our welcomes and introductions. I'll go over a few Zoom basics just so that you know how to kind of navigate if you're new to Zoom. I'll share a little bit about what our plan of action is, what I'm hoping that you get from today's session with the workshop objective. I'll share a little bit of history about Job Skills and our welcome centers, and then we'll get right into the exciting part, the reason you're all here today, and explaining some of that information regarding what is a virtual hiring event, how do we prepare, and then sort of giving us a sense of what to expect when we're actually in the event. And I'll also provide you with some tips and tricks, okay, as we go through. Megan did discuss the question piece, so I would also encourage you to please utilize the chat If you do have any questions, we will visit them at the end. There will be some time for Q&A. If there's something that's really pressing, again, just put it in the chat and Megan will hold on to it for me, okay? I may check in sort of halfway just to see if there are any questions that we need to address at that time, but generally we'll hold off till the end, okay? And yeah, I think that's it. Let's keep on moving forward. I'm actually just going to turn my camera off just to help support the bandwidth here. So I will say goodbye and see you at the end, okay, for the question period. So just some really brief Zoom basics here. And again, some of you may be quite familiar with this, so just bear with me for the next few minutes. So to use your audio settings, those have already been sort of set up for you via Megan, okay? And so you are on mute, and your video, you do have the option to turn it on or off if you like. Okay, but please, just for until the very end when we do take questions, we'll ask you to be muted, okay? If you could turn your camera off just to help with some of the bandwidth challenges that sometimes are faced, that would be appreciated. There, of course, is the chat box. So if you go to the toolbar, you'll notice that there is a chat icon, and you can just click on that and then go ahead and type in any questions that you may have, and we will be happy to address them, okay, during the question period. And that's it. So the raise hand option is for webinars, so just disregard that piece, okay? Let's keep going. Okay, so the workshop objective, what I'm hoping you're going to learn today, okay, and my plan to share with you this information, so you're going to understand the basics of a virtual hiring event, okay? What it looks like, and how to prepare for one. And what are the differences between an in-person event versus this virtual type, okay? We will also be discussing some tips, okay, to help prepare you for the video interview, points of consideration. And then throughout, we'll sort of be touching on some pieces on how to present yourself most effectively at a virtual hiring event that you may be attending in the near future. Okay, I'm going to just start off though with a little bit of background about job skills, and this will just be brief, a few minutes here. Is anyone familiar with job skills? Have you heard of us before? You can feel free to enter into the chat a yes or a no. Maybe we're new to you. We actually have 2 locations in the Peel region now. So we have one in Brampton, and we just opened up a new location in Mississauga. We've been around for over 30 years, supporting clients, and those clients being job seekers as well as employers in their training goals. Okay, so we started up in Keswick in 1988, and we've been serving the community since then. Our mission at Job Skills is to support our job seekers and our employers to create a more vibrant community. So helping you get the information that you need, and then empowering you to move forward with your job search goals. To say that we've worked with over 20,000 job seekers this past year, even with COVID. So that's something that is very exciting for us. We've also worked with over 2,000 small, medium, and large employers in York and Peel regions, as well as Simcoe County. We have 7 service locations, now 8, because we did open up one in Mississauga as well. And we provide over 20 different programs and services to assist job seekers with their individualized job searching needs. Oh, I see some annotating happening there. Okay, so as I said, we work with job seekers, but we do also work with employers, okay, and with employers that might be interested in hiring some folks, or maybe they're looking, for a particular individual that has, and looking for a certain type of skill set. We can help to sort of connect the dots between employer and job seeker. And we do also receive funding from a variety of different levels of government. So we have municipal funding, provincial funding, as well as federal funding. We do also work with the Welcome Center support, the Welcome Center Immigrant Services. We oversee the one in Markham North, okay, which is at Woodbine and Highway 7. And the Welcome Center Immigrant Service is basically a one-stop shop for newcomers to Canada, especially those located in York region and Durham region, and where people can basically access a variety of different services all under one roof. So, we can obviously help with the employment piece, but there's also, housing needs that may be really important to support. There's also language classes and things like that. So we are part of this network, and we support over 10,000 newcomers annually throughout the 5 different centers located in York region. Our role, particularly at the Markham North Welcome Center, is to provide the employment services. So we provide settlement and integration services, again, those English language classes. We help with accreditation and qualification assistance. So if you're an internationally trained professional looking to find a new opportunity here in Canada, we can support you in that effort. We do also provide interpretation services, as well as a variety of other community-based services. Really, we work with clients both through job skills as well as in the welcome centers to provide you with an individualized action plan that really suits your personal needs. So that's something to keep in mind if you find that after this session you'd like to get a little bit more information. We can definitely connect, and I will be sharing some contact information at the end. Okay, so let's get right into the content, the reason that we're all here, okay, for today's session. As Megan said earlier, we are actually working with the Brampton Library to, and tonight is sort of the launch for a virtual hiring event called Launch Your Future. And it's going to be going for about 2 weeks, okay, from May 3rd to May 14th. And I'll explain a little bit more as we go through, and also can discuss a little bit more at the end, okay? So first off, what is a virtual hiring event? Okay, this might seem pretty straightforward and obvious, okay? The idea here is that it is quite similar to an in-person hiring event or job fair that you might go to. It's basically employers accept job applications and conduct virtual interviews, either in a group setting or perhaps in an individual format. And it's great because many employers find this to be quite convenient. Okay, they find that it's very cost effective, okay, for them to run these types of hiring events. And my question to you here is, so I'm going to ask for some engagement throughout today's session, and I'm going to ask you to respond in the chat here, is, what do you think the benefits of attending a virtual hiring event would be for an applicant? So for someone like yourself looking for work, what would be the main benefit of attending a virtual hiring event for yourself? What do you think? Do you want to enter something into the chat? And Megan, maybe you can let me know if there are any responses. I see some flashing there happening in the chat.
I just added the question in the chat box.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah. Somebody said don't have to drive. Another person said a guaranteed interview right away.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure. Yeah. So those are both valid points.
Oh, another one, I will know instantly if I got the job.
Yes. Okay. For the most part, you do get that quick feedback from employers because they're looking to hire. Okay. It is very convenient for both job seeker and employer. Okay. It makes a lot of sense too from an employer perspective because they can see a high level and high quality candidates too. These virtual hiring events tend to attract a lot of high quality candidates. So that's obviously a huge incentive for employers, but then also for yourself too. When you do join these teams, you have some really amazing colleagues to share ideas with and collaborate with. So it's a win-win really when you think about it. Okay, just having some issues here with my scroll. There we go. Okay. So as I said earlier, companies are turning to these virtual career fairs as sort of their main hiring strategy. COVID has put some restrictions on us as far as the in-person meeting. So we are adapting and flexing as needed, both from a job seeker perspective and an employer perspective as well. So it's really, really interesting to see how many employers are taking this on. So about 80% of recruiting Okay, this is the forecast, will be virtual for the foreseeable future. Okay, many employers are already doing this, right? So we did talk about some of the benefits here, but even to add to that piece is like there's no setup. Okay, the hiring is accelerated, like someone said there. You tend to know quite quickly if you've got the job or not. It's void of those geographic boundaries, and you don't have to travel anywhere. But some other good pieces too is that to think about is that it's more efficient than those in-person job fairs and phone screening. So, it's pretty straightforward. The format of the virtual job fairs allow recruiters to engage with more candidates in the same or the shorter amount of time. And like I said earlier, it attracts these higher quality candidates and helps the employers, the recruiters, to process these candidates into these great opportunities that are available. Okay. So that's just a little bit about, hiring event, the sort of the basics, the definition of it. But from there, what is it that we need to do to prepare for an event? Okay? And again, some of these might seem pretty obvious, but I'm hoping to get some of your insights, your experience as to how you've dealt with or dealt in and experienced even the in-person job fairs. So you may not have gone to a virtual hiring event as of yet, okay, but maybe in your near future, there's one coming, one that you'd like to attend. Okay, but as I said earlier, there are some connections to be made between the virtual hiring event and an in-person hiring event. Okay, the main points being that you're meeting with the employers sort of right away. You're getting the opportunity to share your elevator pitch or that branding statement that tells the employer a little bit about who you are, and from there, you hopefully get the opportunity. Okay, but there are some other things that we also want to do when preparing for an event of this kind. Okay, so the first one here is that we want to read the event description. And I know that seems really obvious. You're probably saying, oh, Deanna, like, duh, come on, I get it. But, it's really important to read this. Oftentimes we overlook it. Okay, so why is this important? Well, because within the description of the hiring event, employers are going to leave important clues about what to expect. Okay, for example, employers will indicate if they plan to make an offer on the spot or if it's a first interview within a series of interviews. Okay, so this can happen sometimes. Not all hiring events, and namely virtual hiring events, do you get the job right after that first meeting. Okay, sometimes this is the first step in the interview process. So it's important to read the event description. Okay. Also, what's great about the event description that it also includes some of the job requirements. Okay, it may include some of the necessary certifications or the requirements of the job or other details that are going to help determine if it's the right fit for you. And they're also going to let you know what you need to do to prepare. Okay, so they may also provide some insights into how, what to have with you, what branding materials to bring with you, or what to wear even. Okay. What's interesting about this particular piece is that with the job skills hiring event, it's slightly different in that we have job postings on the landing page. And from there, you can actually the job postings and sort of pick and choose which opportunities are of interest to you. And then from there, we have someone who will contact you, okay, to talk about next steps. Okay, someone from job skills will contact you, and then from there, they will connect you with the company. Okay, so that's just a slight variance. Keeping in mind that we're talking about sort of the general hiring event. The job skills event is slightly different though, okay? But you can still prepare in the same way, okay? The next point here is that we want to, of course, research the company, okay? Like as if, if you were going to an in-person interview, you would want to have some information and some background details about the company. What makes them tick? What are their values? What is their mission statement? Okay, so you definitely want to take some time, research the company, understand what their needs are, what is the product that they're selling. Go to the employer's company page, read about what it's like to work there. Okay, from current and former employees. If the company has a retail or dining location, you might want to go there and visit, okay, before the event to get an understanding of the day-to-day operations. Also, check out social media profiles and visit the company website. Okay, so obviously during this time of COVID, I would not recommend that you go to a particular establishment, okay, due to the restrictions. Okay, but when things start to open up, think about, okay, oh, I want to work at, so this is what I did, okay? Before I worked at Job Skills, I was unemployed and I was kind of like putting my feelers out. I wanted to find a part-time job. So for me, I love crafting, I'd like to create things. I like to paint and do things like that. So I went to Michael's, okay? And I just started walking around and, I'd already been a customer of theirs before. And then I saw a sign in the window. And for me, it was like a natural fit because I love their product. I love what they were doing. I already knew a little bit about the organization. But, when I went home that night before I applied, I did some more research to make sure it was going to be the right fit for me. Okay. And so that's what we can still do now. We can go onto social media. We can visit the company website and explore and research the companies. Okay. The next piece here is that you definitely want to have an updated resume. So you want to review your resume, make sure that it's relevant to the jobs being offered at the virtual hiring event. So the easiest way to do this is to reflect on your past work experience while you're reading the event description, okay? And then from there, make changes to your resume so that the employer can easily see that your background meets the requirements, okay? So I want you to think about this. When you're updating your resume, ask yourself, how do the job requirements match my qualifications, skills, and experience? That's a really important question to think as you're reading the job or the event description, okay? And then of course, this goes without saying, practice your answers, okay? Take some time, practice, okay? And we're not looking for perfection here. We just want to be able to express our skills in a structured way that employers will obviously get the information that they're looking for, and it'll give you a chance to express, who you are and what you're about. Interviews during a virtual hiring event may be shorter than traditional interviews, so it's best to practice a short summary of yourself. We call these elevator pitches, or sometimes they're called your branding statement or 30-second commercial. There are a lot of different names for the same thing. Okay, but basically it's a short summary of who you are, what are your key skills, attributes, and qualifications you're going to bring as a benefit to this organization, okay? You want to be able to share that with an employer within 30 seconds, okay? Treat the interview as if it were an in-person interview and be prepared to answer questions, okay? So my question to you here, again, I'd love to hear your feedback in the chat. So again, going back to this preparing for an event, we talked about this piece around researching the company, but where are some other places that you can find information about a company? So we said their website, okay, that was one. Any ideas? Where do you like to go to research a company that you're interested in applying to? Okay, so just type your answers into the chat box. Okay, we're a bit shy. Oh, I see some flashing. Maybe that's
somebody said on their website, and then somebody else said LinkedIn or Glassdoor. Social media pages is another.
Perfect. Yes, those are my answers as well. Okay, so Glassdoor is awesome because it allows you the opportunity to see what employees, current employees, as well as past employees say about that employer, right? Have you ever checked out that feature? Indeed, it's fantastic as well. Okay, it has that similar feature, but again, you can go for job postings. There's also usually an employer page, so you can go on there, learn a little bit about some of the salary expectations, review comments again about different employee perspectives on the particular agency. LinkedIn, for sure. I hope everyone has a LinkedIn profile, especially now because we are virtual. It's really important that you have a solid LinkedIn profile to show employers who you are, okay? Someone mentioned the company website. Yeah, that's probably the greatest tool for you when you're doing research about an organization. And where do you think would be So when you go to that company website, what page do you want to go to on that particular site? Where do you think would be the best spot to start your research? Any ideas? Outside of the career page to see if they're hiring.
We've got a few answers here. Oh, it's going fast. We've got newspapers, about us,
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn, their about or their mission statement. A lot of
Yeah.
people are saying the about us section on their
Yeah,
website.
that's exactly it. Okay. I would highly recommend that you go to the About Us page. Okay. You're going to be looking at their mission, their values. And when you're reading through the values and the mission, you want to, again, think about yourself. Okay. What are your values? Okay. How do they relate to that organization? Is this going to be a good fit for me? Okay. And my values. Okay. That's a really, really important thing that sometimes gets overlooked. Okay. And then the last piece, last place you can go to find more information is word of mouth. Okay, reach out to people who work there, maybe through LinkedIn. Maybe you have a friend that works at ABC company. Okay, touch base with them. Set up an informational interview. Informational interview is where you are the interviewer and you're asking this friend, contact, networking person, networking contact. You're asking them questions, okay, about the company, what they like, what they don't like, what are the skills that they use every day, just to get a deeper sense of what it is that is going to be expected of you, okay, in that role. Thanks for your ideas and suggestions, everyone. Let's move on. Okay, so what to expect when we are attending a virtual hiring event? Well, it goes without saying that you're likely going to be on an online conferencing tool of some kind. Okay, so right now there are a variety of different platforms that are available. There's Zoom, GoToMeeting, Google Meet, Skype. The most popular one right now seems to be Zoom for business. But it's just important to have a good sense of how those work. Okay. So that's where you can maybe set up some phone chats with friends and family, just so you can get really comfortable navigating the tools. And I'll speak a little bit more about that later on. And also keep in mind too, that it is generally a very similar flow to a traditional in-person interview. Okay. So this is now, we're talking about you have the one-on-one with the hiring manager. Okay. You've gone through, you've done your research, you prepared as much as you can, and now you have this interview with this organization, okay, at the hiring event, and this is your time to shine, right? So you just want to make sure that you're prepared. Keep in mind and remember they can see you, okay? And we'll talk a bit later about like how to dress and how to present yourself professionally. But yeah, just understand that you will be asked lots of questions about who you are. And so you want to be comfortable and at ease and able to respond to any of the questions that the employer might have. One other thing I would add, and that's not included on the slides, but I just thought of, is that I would recommend that you have a few questions prepared for the employer to ask at the end. Okay. Why is this helpful? Okay. Well, you can clarify anything that you may have learned from your research. Okay. Oh, I saw this on Glassdoor, a really awful review. What do you have to say about that? And you can ask for clarification. Or maybe you want to have a better understanding of like what a typical day might look like. Okay. Or maybe you want to learn about some of the incentives that the organization does for their employees. There could be a variety of different questions that you might have for the employer. So I usually suggest having 5 questions ready. Okay. Knowing that a few of them will be answered throughout the course of the interview. And then by the end, you'll have 2 or 3 questions that you can ask. Okay. And we want them to be obviously well thought out and planned. It's better to have like a bit of a plan in place rather than this just sort of thinking on the spot. Okay. But for those of you who are good at that, thinking on the spot and being spontaneous, then by all means do whatever you're comfortable with. But for me, I like to just have some questions sort of ready to go at the end for the employer. Okay. I'm just going to check in to see if there are any questions right now. So maybe Megan, were there any questions at all from our participants.
Someone just made a comment that said employer notices, based on what you just said, employer notices you are being proactive when interviewing and that you're prepared. So I
Yes.
thought that was a good point to add. And if
Mhm.
anybody else has any questions, just add them in the chat. And
That's a really great point. So what those questions, but what having a few questions prepared for actually shows the employer that you're interested, that you're motivated, and yes, that you're taking a bit of initiative, okay, to show that, hey, I think this is the right opportunity for me. Let's connect. You can have the chance to sort of connect the dots in some of those responses too, right? So yeah, that's a really great point. Are there any other questions before we move on?
nothing else has come through.
Okay, great. Thanks, Megan.
No problem.
We'll continue on here. Okay, so we're going to just review some of these tips for success. Okay, and again, just bear with me. I know that some of them might be pretty obvious because we are basically talking about, virtual interviews here and virtual hiring events. Okay, so there is some crossing over, okay, between those two areas. So the first point that I want to stress, of course, is to be punctual. Okay, so we are online, of course, and it can be tricky. You might end up just, being in a waiting room for 10 minutes, but at least it shows that you are keen, okay, and that you are prepared, you're ready to go. So this rule still applies to online and in-person interviewing. So ensure that you log into the meeting approximately 10 minutes earlier. And again, by being early, this is also one, it'll show that you're motivated, excited about the opportunity, but it's also going to give you some extra time to do any troubleshooting. Okay. I don't know if you've ever experienced technological glitches at the most inopportune time or the most inconvenient moment. We want to try to avoid those. So it does help if we just head into that virtual interview a little bit earlier to help kind of work through some of those troubleshooting pieces. The next one here is to prepare your technology. Okay, so you want to, of course, test out your technology beforehand. So I would suggest, maybe just setting up once you receive a link from the employer, or you have a sense from the event description that tells you what platform is going to be used. You can, go on, and most of those platforms have some sort of free trial that you can use, or like a free version. For example, Zoom I know does. Okay, there's a time limit, but at least you can go on and have a little bit of a play around, right? So, set up a family chat, have everybody in, and you're basically hosting it, navigating, pressing all the buttons to see what happens. Okay, making sure that you're just really, really comfortable with it before you go into that actual interview. I remember when, it was a while ago, it was like 1997. And no, not 97. Oh, that's a long time ago. 2007. I was doing like my first Skype interview. And back then, virtual interviews weren't a big thing. At least I'd never experienced one before. And I didn't take my own advice, and I showed up on the day of. I was early, which was good, but I didn't have a sense of how to use the technology very well. So I had some problems connecting, and there were all sorts of, it was a bit of a nightmare. I mean, eventually it worked out, but, take my advice here. My learning is to just do a bit of testing ahead of time, okay, with family and friends. It doesn't have to be anything formal, okay? You want to, of course, make sure too that your laptop's working, your internet connection is solid, okay? Of course, there's a chance it might go in and out, it might freeze, but generally most internet is stable once connected. So maybe plug into a hard line rather than using the Wi-Fi for that particular time. If you need to get a webcam, all of these pieces, if you need a microphone or if you need a headset, make sure you have all those things ahead of time. Okay. Another way too is maybe you don't have access to this type of equipment. I see obviously we're all here. So the assumption is that we all have access to a laptop or the technology required. Okay, but there are other ways to get this. Maybe we're borrowing a laptop from someone. Okay, so if you have an interview or you're heading to a virtual hiring event, you're going to want to make sure you have the appropriate equipment. So ask a friend, ask a family member to borrow a laptop or a computer, or maybe a headset, or there are rental options as well. Okay, that's something to just, I did a quick Google search earlier. I think Canada Computers has like some sort of rental program. So it's just really figuring out what's happening in your area that you can access. Familiarize yourself with the mute button on the software should you need to use it. Maybe you have, kids running around, or maybe you just have another person working in your house as well at the same time. Just you want to know how to use that mute button in case people are getting loud. I have 2 cats, so they're running around all over the place. So I always have to make sure that I mute and know how to use that mute button. Okay. You can also use the headphones, which tend to cancel out some of the noise too. So that's really helpful. And make sure your phone is on silent. Okay. That's another really important one. You do not want your phone to go off when you're in an interview, okay, or at a hiring event. And definitely do not answer the call. Okay. I heard a horror story about a client, middle of an interview. This was in person though, and their phone began ringing. And instead of just, turning it off like we can do, they actually answered the phone and had a conversation and in the middle of the interview, and then put their phone down. And they were like, oh yeah, sorry about that. Let's chat. Okay. We don't want to do that. So make sure your phone's off. It won't be a distraction. You'll be, ready to go to talk about yourself and put your best foot forward. The next point here is that we want to prepare our environment. Okay, so you want to find a quiet place. Okay, so whether that's setting up a, as my phone goes off, isn't that ironic? Where is it? I don't even know where it is. Okay, it's my alarm. Sorry about that. You want to find a quiet place. You want to set up your webcam. You want to, of course, complete your interview at a table with a proper chair. So no sitting on the couch, and make sure that you have really, really good lighting as well. Okay. So, especially if you had something, say at this time of day, it's getting a bit darker. You want to make sure that you are able to, have the best view of yourself, okay, on the screen, okay, and showing to the employer. So just make sure that your lighting is appropriate, okay, and set up your webcam where you plan to complete the interview. Ensure that your background is clear, clean, and professional. That's a really important one. So oftentimes, and I know too, these days we have the option of putting up all these really cool virtual backgrounds. And I saw one the other day that was like an outer space scene. Okay, you wouldn't want to have that for a virtual hiring event. Okay, I mean, it's great. It could show your personality. And maybe if you're in like astrophysics or something, then that makes sense. Or, you do stuff with astronomy, again, that makes sense. There's a connection there, but, generally just try to stick to a very neutral background when you're going to these hiring events. Okay. And it's really as simple as just Google searching. Okay. Like a professional office virtual background, and there's tons of stuff that comes up, right? This also, another important point is just to let your family members or anyone else that's in the house, let them know that you are going to be going into an interview or into a virtual hiring event, so that people will not interrupt you. Okay. You can lock the door if you need to, or it's just as simple as, just letting people know wherever you are that you just would appreciate some quiet for the next hour or so. Okay. Okay. So another important tip here is to network. Okay. So sometimes this piece comes before the virtual hiring event, but not really. The virtual hiring events are really meant for you to, go to different employers, check in, have some, great conversations, learn a little bit about the organization and the role itself. Okay, we really want to try to come out of our shells here. If you're like me, I'm a little bit introverted. I tend to be quite shy in social settings, and so I really have to push myself, okay, to kind of come out of my shell a little bit. So I would encourage you to get comfortable with that. It does become easier, I promise you. Obviously, if you're already outgoing and you have no problem with that, then congratulations, you're very lucky. Okay, so you don't need to worry about that. But just bring your A game. Make sure that you're on point, ready to talk about yourself. Okay, be really calm, composed, and polite. You're using your pleases and thank yous. We can't obviously shake hands virtually, but there are other ways to show that you're engaged in the conversation. Be patient, okay, especially if there's a bit of a queue when it comes to different employers at this hiring event. You just maybe just have your resume in front of you so that you can kind of refer to that. And going back to the elevator pitch, or what we were calling the branding statement, 30-second commercial, be prepared to introduce yourself. Okay, so more often than not in interviews, they ask you, tell me about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? And that's really what the elevator pitch answers. Okay, you're talking about your skills, accomplishments, and how you're going to benefit the organization. Okay, so you want to have something short and sweet prepared to sort of share with the employer. Okay. Okay. We want to be able to schmooze, okay, with the employers. So getting comfortable with small talk. Okay, so small talk are these conversations, or maybe like a water cooler conversation. It's very general. Okay, you're not necessarily going to go too in depth here in trying to learn a ton of stuff about a particular employer, like, oh, how many brothers and sisters do you have? Like, you would never ask that, right? Instead, you could ask more questions. Oh yeah, I was reading on your website about your values. How do you feel that plays out in your day to day, at ABC company? Okay, so just be prepared to have some small talk. In Canada, we love to talk about weather. Okay, so that's a great starting point when it comes to some of that informal small talk. Talk about the weather. COVID right now is another thing to talk about. Okay, for small talk. So, try to find some of those exciting and interesting topics to make you memorable. Okay. The great thing about networking, though, is that, and something that a lot of people don't actually realize is that you do this every single day. Okay, you do this. Something we all do. Naturally, some people do it better than others. Okay, but it is a skill that you can learn. Okay, and grow and develop. But with job searching, it needs to be really a systematic gathering of names and contacts. Okay, so you want to approach networking in a way that's going to work best for you. Okay, and Job Skills does workshops on this topic. So if that's something of interest to you, I can definitely, I'll be sharing the Job Skills website at the end, and you can check out our calendar of events to see, some of the workshops that we're offering on this particular topic, networking and direct approach, as well as who's hiring, which is our hidden job market workshop. Okay. But I want you to just take a moment here. Okay. And I want you to think about a couple of things. So I have a few polls, okay, that I'm actually going to be asking you. Okay. So just give me a second here. I'm going to launch a poll. And the question is, how often do you network with people in the same industry? Okay, so you're going to notice a box pop up, and there are going to be 5 options here. So you have the option of weekly, once a month, quarterly, once a year, or only when you require it. Okay, so how often do you network with people in the same industry sector? Okay, if you haven't been networking, that's okay too, but I would really encourage you to start reaching out. Okay, start making those links with people that you've worked with in the past. Okay. Colleagues, supervisors, any of those things. Okay, we'll just wait a few more seconds. I see we're waiting on a few folks to cast their votes. Okay, and then once we have everyone, I will share the results, and so you can just have a quick glimpse as to where we're at. It's very interesting, actually. It looks like we're doing pretty well here as a group. So congratulations. I'll just share that with you. Okay, so 18% of us are doing it weekly. That is fantastic. Okay, so it's a funny thing with networking. The more you do it, especially with the professional folks, your professional network, you'll start to see a lot more results actually. So I would encourage you to, if you're doing it weekly, continue doing it. That's great. Once a month, that's fantastic. Okay, you're building that habit. Even the quarterly. Okay, so it's great to see that some of you are, you're building this habit and you're doing it consistently. Okay, and and only when I require it, I get it, fair enough. There's lots of other things that are going on, but I would encourage you to amp this up a little bit in your life. Okay, if you're not currently doing a lot of networking, this is one way that you can start to see some really great results in your job search activities. Okay, and of course this will help you too when you're going into the virtual hiring event, because networking events are really about schmoozing. It's about that small talk, getting to know people, right? And once you sort of develop that skill to go into a hiring event or even any job interview, it's going to be so easy for you. Okay, you're gonna stand out, okay, in the crowd. So that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing. I have one more poll here that we're actually I'm going to launch. Okay, and I want you to think again. Ask yourself this: what is your preferred mode of networking? Okay, so you have a few opportunities here. You can, excuse me. 1 second here. Oh, I just want to choose a different poll. And pulling. Sorry, just give me a minute. Almost there. Okay. What is your preferred mode of networking? You're going to choose all that apply. Okay, so there's a few different options. Okay. We have LinkedIn. We have Facebook. I think a lot of people still use Facebook. Other social media platforms, I'm interested. What are these other ones? Individual one-on-one meetings. Okay, that's great. If you're setting up meetings with previous or even your current network, fantastic. Job fair exhibitions or like virtual hiring events, awesome. Networking events, fantastic. Okay, so we'll just give a little bit longer for those of you to respond. Again, if you haven't been networking or you don't think you're networking, I will share some information here shortly to show you that you're probably already doing it, but you just haven't been noticing it. So, okay, I'm going to just share the polls here. Okay, so really interesting. Great to see 80% of us are using LinkedIn to network. Fantastic. Okay, that's what it's for. So LinkedIn really speaks to that professional networking piece. Facebook's a little bit more of the personal, okay? But not to say that Facebook isn't helpful in finding job opportunities. I have many clients who have done a lot of networking via Facebook, okay? And found opportunities. Other social media platforms, perhaps you can share some of those. Instagram, I think, has job postings to virtual hiring event and networking events. Very good. Very good to see. Fantastic. Thanks, everybody, for sharing. And the cool thing, again, as I said earlier, networking is something you do naturally. Okay, so you probably do it already with friends and family. Okay, you're trying to find out a new restaurant. Okay, you're going to ask everybody, hey, do you know of a really good Mexican restaurant? I love Mexican food, so that's probably what I would ask. Okay, but what's a great Mexican restaurant in Brampton? Okay, can you tell me? That's one way that we're networking. Networking is all about creating relationships. Okay, so you're wanting to do that both before the virtual hiring event as well as during the hiring event. Okay, and after even. Okay, another tip for success here is that we want to speak slowly. Okay, if you're like me, you may have a tendency to speak pretty quickly. Okay, just note that in the virtual world, there might be lag times. Okay, and there might be technical glitches while you're responding. And so you want to make sure that you're speaking very clearly to ensure the interviewer can easily understand those responses. Okay, slow and steady. The next one here, and this goes hand in hand with the communication piece. So speaking slowly, then of course we want to listen carefully and stay focused. Okay, so really, find a spot on the employer or maybe just above the employer's head and focus in on that. Okay. Making eye contact is really important. Okay, it shows that you're engaged, you're paying attention, you're interested. So you want to make sure that you're utilizing some of those nonverbal cues. Okay, nonverbal Communication, so eye contact, smiling, nodding your head, tilting your head to show that you're interested, you're engaged. Okay, all of those little things are very impactful. They go a long, long way. Okay, and you also want to look for cues to ensure that you're responding appropriately. Okay, so look for their body language. Okay, oftentimes we want to try and mirror the person that we're interviewing with. Okay, so if they're nodding their head, try nodding your head. If they smile, try smiling. Okay, it's weird how our brains work, and when we're mirroring those pieces, okay, our brain naturally starts thinking like, oh, I like this person. Okay, your brain tells you, okay, let's be friends. Okay, let's create a relationship here. Okay, and that's a huge part in these virtual hiring events, because naturally some things get lost in the virtual world versus in person. So we really want to maximize it as to the best of our abilities. And as I said earlier here, this body language, use the same type of body language you would use in an in-person interview. So, sit up straight, place both of your feet firmly on the ground so you're not fidgeting and moving around, make eye contact with the camera, or just look at the person's face, and resist the urge to fiddle. Okay, or use unnecessary hand gestures. If you're like me, I like to use my hands when I talk. And so sometimes I find that it can be a little bit much. And so I have to really be mindful of that when I'm going into a hiring event or going to an interview. So oftentimes I'll just lock my hands and put them on my lap. I've heard of some people sitting on their hands, whatever it is that you need to do to help you not be fidgeting or using your hands too much. Okay, it's just distracting. Some tips for success when it comes to your attire. Okay, so although it is virtual, you still want to dress the part. Okay, generally, when it comes to most interviews, you should still dress the same way that you would for this in-person interview. Common misconception about online interviewing is that you have to dress from the waist up. Okay, so imagine you're dressed from waist up, your lovely business suit, and then you stand up and you've got your unicorn pajamas on, or you've got some board shorts on, some swim shorts. Okay, you don't want that. You don't want the employer to see that. Okay, when you're ever in doubt of how to dress for an interview, always err on the side of formal. Okay, so that would be this slide here. Okay, I'm going to show you a few other slides so you get some different dress codes, but this is, probably the standard, okay, when it comes to most virtual hiring events, virtual interviews. Okay, full suit, nice shoes. I find too, when you dress the part, you dress head to toe, how you would for a job interview, you tend to feel a little bit more confident. So definitely want to feel that way when we're going into the job interview, and we want to project confidence. So this is one way to do that, through your clothing. Okay, just make sure that you're not accessorizing too much. Okay, as you can see, both the man and the woman in this particular image, they do not have really any jewelry on, no watches, no rings, nothing of the sort. And that's really because we want them to focus in on you, or what you're about, not the flash. Okay, that sometimes makeup or a lot of accessories can take away from what you're saying. Okay, another option for attire is business casual. Okay, so this is a little bit less formal. Okay, this is probably the most common style for interview attire. Okay, you can also check a company's website, or when you're talking to someone that works at the company, you can ask them, hey, what's the dress code? Okay, that will tell you how to prepare for the virtual hiring event as well. Okay, and what to wear. So as you can see, it's a little bit more casual. They still have a blazer, but the top is not a button down. Okay, the man does not have a tie. Okay, there's some slight differences. They still look very, very professional, I would say. But it's not like a three-piece suit, okay, for both man and woman. Okay, and they've got some nice dress shoes on. You want to make sure your shoes are always clean on the back, especially on the heel, because well, this is in person. This is an in-person tip, okay, not for virtual, obviously. Make sure you always have clean shoes when you're going in-person interviews, because it's the last thing that the people will see. Okay, when you're leaving, they'll see the back of your shoes. Okay, if they're covered in mud or dirty or scuffed up, then Yeah, that'll leave an impression. Okay. And then this would be the bare minimum for any interview. Okay, smart casual. Okay, so again, they look pretty professional. And, some workplaces might be fine with this. Like if you were to go to a job interview, a virtual hiring event for, say, a retail establishment, okay, this would probably be okay. Okay, but again, I would probably still err on the side of dressing a little bit more formally than this, because we want to create a lasting positive first impression. Okay. And as human beings, we make that first initial judgment within 30 seconds of meeting someone. Okay. So that's not very long, right? And unfortunately, that 30-second impression lasts a very, very long time. It's hard to change a person's initial impression of you, okay, once they've made it. So of course we want to leave the best impression. Okay. So here's just a little final checklist as we're getting close to the end. We're almost ready to wrap up here. This is just a bit of a checklist to take with you to think about, okay, when you're going to those hiring events, bring these things with you, have them with you on your table side so that you can access them easily and refer to them throughout. Okay, so you want to have a copy of your resume to reference in the interview. Okay, I think that's pretty obvious. Okay, you can read off of it. Obviously, you still want to be prepared ahead of time, understand and know your work history like the back of your hand. Okay, but this is just in case. Okay, that you may have, okay, on what you've prepared to say. So for me, I do a lot of preparation ahead of time. I like take the question, I write out sample answers, and for me, I like to have them with me. I don't generally check them when I'm in an interview, but it's for whatever, it makes me feel more comfortable when I just have them there. So, but a lot of people like to have like a pen and paper nearby so that you can take notes. So that would be another thing to consider. Have a glass of water. Okay. Sometimes when you're talking a lot, and especially if you're under pressure or feeling a bit stressed, our mouths go really dry, right? And so there's nothing wrong with just stopping the conversation, saying, "Oh, do you mind? I'm just going to have a little sip of water here." Okay. Make sure you do a final clothing check. Okay, do you look neat? Do you look clean? Okay, make sure that you don't have any, I don't know if you have kids, maybe a baby, don't have spit up on your on your blazer, hey, or don't have any animal hair or pet hair all over you, or you didn't drip any of your breakfast, on your shirt. Okay, so just making sure that you look great, okay, across all fronts. Okay. Check to see if there's anything in the background that might be distracting. Oops, sorry about that. My finger slipped. Okay. Make sure that you, of course, remove all distractions. So closing the door, creating that sort of quiet place for you to attend the hiring event and also have the interview. Make sure your phone is on silent. That's another reminder. And the most important one is to smile, of course. Okay. Smile is the easiest way to connect with another person. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but oftentimes if you smile at someone, and it's hard now with the masks, but at least virtually, we can still smile. And more often than not, once you smile, someone else will smile. Okay, so it's really interesting how that works. Okay, makes you feel good, makes others feel good. It shows that you're a kind person. Okay, potentially, a good person to work with. So a little bit of your personality shine through. So, the smiling also helps to, at least helps me sometimes if I'm feeling stressed, helps to relieve some of that, that stress, and I can just relax a little bit too. Okay. So that's a helpful little checklist. Excuse me. So next steps, I want you to start thinking about how about this piece. Okay. How are you going to prepare for your next job fair or your next virtual hiring event? Will you do anything differently now based off of what you've learned today? And then just think about too, like when we talked about that final checklist, that last slide, what do you need to be successful? Okay, so, some people, I've heard of this before where people have actually gotten, chart paper and, made huge things that are behind the actual screen or at the hiring event, and that they can kind of like refer to as there's, with some of their answers and things like that. So if that's going to be helpful to you and help you be more successful, then you want to do that. Okay. You got to prepare. Okay. But I want you to think about these questions as you leave today and really, like, is there anything you're going to do differently, or what are you going to do for the next hiring event? Okay. So this is where we end. This is, we're not ready to part ways. I do have some information just to share still. But I just wanted to get a little bit of your feedback as to how we did today. If you got some of the information that I hope.
Deanna, sorry to interrupt, but we did have a question that came in
Sure.
before we do the feedback poll. It came back when you were talking about technology and preparing for the technology, and
Yeah.
someone asked, can I tune in with my cell phone instead of a laptop?
Sure. Yeah. I don't see, yeah, because a lot of our phones have apps, right? You can use a Zoom app, or you can use Google Meet or Skype or whatever. A lot of those platforms have a mobile version. So I don't see why not. As long as you can stand it up, it will not move, okay, that will be stable and secure. Yeah, that's definitely a great option. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No problem. Are there, sorry, yeah, maybe we'll do questions first, and I'll share our job skills contact with the hiring event, but let's have some questions first, and then we'll do the poll.
Yeah, there's just one other that just came through, and this person said that they wanted to find out more about the virtual hiring event specifically that's happening right now.
Okay, great. Yeah, we can definitely share that with you. That is part of the plan. Okay, so right now, this is sort of the kickoff of the Launch Your Future hiring event that Job Skills and Brampton Library are partnering with for the next few weeks. So it's from May 3rd to May 14th. We actually have 19 different employers based out of Peel, and they're in a variety of different sectors. So we have some manufacturing, we have some, sort of frontline, there's some retail, there's restaurants, there's, tech, there's, just all sorts of really great opportunities. All of these are on our website. And I think Megan's going to share the link on how you can, access the Launch Your Future registration page. Once you go on to the Launch Your Future landing page, you'll be asked to complete like a few questions, like your name, email address, phone number. And then under there, you'll actually see little tick boxes for different job titles. Okay, you'll actually have to scroll down a little bit further, and you'll see that all the job postings that we're looking to fill are actually posted there. Okay, so I would highly recommend that you review the job descriptions first. Okay, so scroll right down to the bottom, check out all the job postings, see if there's a good match for you. Okay, and then from there, you're going to tick off the in the registration form. You're going to tick off the boxes for the roles that you're interested in applying to. I believe you have the option of applying for more than one. Okay, so that's good. That's great. Once you've submitted the registration sign up, you're going to be then contacted by one of our job skills team members. Okay, and from there, you'll be triaged to the employer. Okay, to the employer who's filling that particular opportunity. So it's a little bit different than what we've been talking about from a hiring event perspective. You're really just going to go from, if you're the right candidate, you're going to go from signing up to potentially going right into an interview. Okay, so that's pretty exciting, I think. And then from there, the triage piece, yeah, you'll be connected with the employer, who will then set up an interview and discuss, more of the details around that. At some point, you will be asked to provide your social insurance number, so just be mindful of that. Now, that's just, for working with job skills. And you also have to submit a resume. So you may want to start working on, if you don't already have one, work on a targeted resume. Okay, again, focusing on excuse me, those key skills and qualifications that the employer has described in the job posting, what they're looking for, and just making sure that your resume matches that. Okay, that you're highlighting what you have that that relates to the job. Okay, so I would encourage you to check out the landing page to see if there are any opportunities that are of interest to you. Again, there's a little bit for everybody. If you find though that those opportunities don't match what you're looking for, don't fret. Okay, we also have a hot jobs section on our website, which is www.jobskills.org. Okay, And so you can go on there, you can apply, you would have to submit a resume as well. And then another option would be to sign on and register with us to be a client, and we can then do job matching for you as well. Okay, so job matching is where you would potentially say you want to work for ABC company, but we don't have that connection yet with them. We would then reach out on behalf of you to ABC company and say, hey, we have this really amazing candidate, has all the skills that you're looking for, let's talk. We sort of work as the middle person, okay, the middle man, woman, to support you in getting in front of the employer. Okay, so there are a few options. You can apply or join us for the Launch Your Future event. You can also check out our hot jobs board on our website, or you can sign up and register with us to get more one-on-one support. It's a much deeper sort of relationship by working with the job skills team member, our employment consultant, and you can get great access to a lot of helpful information that will support you in your job search activities for sure.
And I just want to add to people, because I don't think everybody knows this when they hear about job skills, that this is all free to you. This is all government funded, which is why you give your social insurance number. Is that right, Deanna?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so take advantage of this great government funded program that's here for you. Would it help folks if I shared my screen? I'm open to the Launch Your Future page, and I can just quickly show everybody. Would that mess you up, Deanna? I know you're sharing.
No, not at all. That's
okay.
Great. That's a great idea. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna just share my screen here. Where are we here? All right. Okay, so you'll see right up here, it says Launch Your Future. And then down here is where Deanna was saying the job descriptions are, right? So you are encouraging folks to just click on all of these, for example. So you have a little bit more information before you fill out the form and then select what it is you want to be considered for, and then just submit.
Yeah.
As easy as that. Yeah,
and you can also access that through, if you just went to www.jobskills.org, that very first, Megan, do you mind clicking on the logo there? Thanks. Okay. And then right off the front page of our website, there's a button that says Launch Your Future Hiring Event.
Right there.
And that will redirect you to that that landing page that Megan just showed us.
And then where was the hot job? Sorry, what was it called, Deanna?
Yeah, hot jobs. So if you go to job seekers, actually job board.
Job board. Okay.
This changes. It's a bit different than what it used to be. Excuse me. Hey.
Okay.
Here you can see there are a variety of different opportunities. Again, just so you understand too, like if you may not see an opportunity right off the bat that fits you, okay, and that's where I would encourage you to connect with an employment consultant and a
contact us
specialist to help do that job matching piece for you.
Yeah, there's contact us right up there, and there's a phone number there as well. Great. Okay. Just thought it might help some people to see that. So
yeah, visuals are always great.
Yeah. Okay, great.
And I'm just going to go back really quickly. I only have a couple more slides because I just want to make sure that you get our contact information. Just bear with me here while I go back to the PowerPoint. Okay. There we go. Okay, so I did review the website. If you want to meet up with an employment consultant, it's info@jobskills.org. Just shoot us an email. Or if you prefer to give us a call and talk to someone at 1-866-592-6278. Okay, we do also have all the social media platforms. So we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. What else? I think that's it. Maybe I'm missing one. And then also, if you're a newcomer to Canada, or if you know someone that's new to Canada and is interested in getting some employment supports or any other supports, this is just the contact information for a Welcome Center. And the website is www.welcomecenter.ca, and then info@welcomecenter.ca. And the 1-800 number is there for you, 1-877-761 1155. And thank you. I'm just going to launch a final poll just to get some feedback. And I just want to, the question here is that I'm just asking that did you get what you needed from today's session? So if you strongly agree, if you could tick that off, somewhat agree, neither agree nor disagree, somewhat disagree, strongly disagree. This helps us to improve our programming as well. So appreciate any feedback that you can offer. Great. You'll just keep it up there for a few more seconds and then we'll close it down. Okay. Fantastic. Okay, thanks everyone. Appreciate that. Okay. And that's it for today's presentation. I want to thank you all so much for joining us. Sorry we went a little bit over, but I appreciate you sticking around. If there are any questions, you can feel free to connect with myself, Dee Joyce at jobskills.org, or you can give us a call or email us.
Great. Thanks so much, Deanna. And we just did have one final question, which is how can we access the recorded session? So it is on Facebook Live now. As soon as I stop live streaming, it will be a video on our Brampton Library's Facebook page. And it will also be posted to Brampton Library's YouTube channel in the coming days as well.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so thanks so much, Deanna. I am going to stop our recording and stop our live streaming as well right now.
Thanks,
Thank you, everybody, for coming.